He has over 18 years of experience in information risk, cybersecurity, and service management in a global setting across multiple industries, from security, architecture, and design through SOC advisory and incident response to security-based technology projects and the emerging areas of 5G and OT. CX Security Services provide a range of services to help customers improve their security posture.
On your zero trust journey, a topic that nowadays is very relevant for many organizations. First, let's start off with a little bit of context and recognizing that the way we do business is changing. The pandemic has changed the way we play, has changed the way we learn, and the way we work. The future of work is really a hybrid one. Most organizations are giving employees the choice and option to choose where they will work from, whether from home or from the office. Many have, due to the pandemic, accelerated adoption of cloud, moving applications from on-premise data centers to the cloud, to adopting software as a service. New technologies like the Internet of Things or IoT and new network models like the SD-WAN are driving change as well, leading to increasingly digitized and complex networks and infrastructure. Not only do you have to now maintain instant availability wherever workloads are running, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, 24/7, you also have to keep up with your security. Top of mind for many organizations, as well as security professionals, are questions like, how can I maintain visibility across my environment? How can I maintain security as my perimeter is evolving and dissolving? At times, it feels like you can't secure every new business adventure and project. Organizations are therefore turning to security by zero trust as an approach to help achieve security outcomes with today's evolving threat landscape. Some of the outcomes that zero trust drives are maintaining security with a dissolved perimeter, capabilities to mitigate and respond to evolving threats, providing least privilege-based access to data, applications, and resources, effectively reducing the attack surface, as well as helping organizations meet new regulatory requirements. Based on a study conducted by Pulse Secure last year, nearly 29% of organizations have a zero trust model already in place or projects underway, while more than 40% are in some sort of planning stage. Nearly a third have no plans or are not familiar with what zero trust is. What is it then, zero trust? With zero trust, it seems like every vendor has a different perspective. Almost every security vendor that you talk to will state that their product, their solution gives your organization zero trust, yet many only address a small portion of zero trust in your environment and only add to the already fragmented security tooling landscape. It only makes sense to talk about zero trust as an architecture, because individual non-integrated point products and solutions will not solve the larger issue of end-to-end zero trust. There are a few frameworks that describe the zero trust architecture, such as Forrester's Zero Trust Extended, covering pillars of people, devices, networks, workload, and data, and capabilities of automation, orchestration, as well as visibility and analytics. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, came out with a special publication covering zero trust architecture. And Gartner have their CARTA, or Continuous Adaptive Risk and Trust Assessment Framework. Let's have a look at some of the foundational aspects, elements, or tenets of zero trust. The first tenet is based around the fact that you cannot defend or protect against something you cannot see. The enterprise is to monitor and measure integrity and posture of the environment, as well as collect as much as possible relevant information about the current state of assets and network and what is happening in your environment in terms of communication flows and understanding which device talks to which application. Second, all data sources and computing services, including applications and databases, are considered resources. Third, authentication and authorization is dynamic and strictly enforced before access is granted. That access, when granted, is on a per connection basis and determined by dynamic policy. If the posture of the user of the device changes, the access has to be reevaluated. Lastly, all communication must be secured regardless of where the devices and applications are. No location in the network is considered trusted. To illustrate the logical model of zero trust architecture, we can have a look at the following diagram below. This is adapted from the NIST model. On the left-hand side, you see users or subjects trying to gain access to resources, which are depicted on the right-hand side. These can be applications, databases, or files, either on-premise or in the cloud. The users use a system, a device, connecting from different locations. For instance, home office or the headquarters office, utilizing VPN or using public access. Now, before these users and devices are allowed to access the resources, they go through what is the policy enforcement point, or could be multiple enforcement points in green. The decision or policy, whether the enforcement point allows the particular request to go through and be trusted or be blocked, is dictated and evaluated by the policy engine, which will also decide at which point to enforce the policy. The policy engine ideally takes a variety of inputs to provide a very rich and dynamic context. These are inputs from your monitoring systems and solutions, threat intelligence, identity management systems, SIEM, and so on. After deciding whether an access request can be granted or blocking it, the whole scenario is repeated again for every attempt or every connection, i.e. on a per connection basis. Even though this model seems simple, implementing it can be very challenging for many organizations given the complexities in their environment. Adopting zero trust architecture is an incremental implementation and should be something that starts with looking at what you already have and build from there. You do not need to rip out what you have and start new. In our engagements where we advise and help our customers on their zero trust journey, we take a complementary approach to drive transformation towards a zero trust architecture. On one side, we use the more traditional threat-centric approach to address foundational security aspects and controls. This part helps in addressing known threats, known attack vectors. We build on that foundation and extend it with a trust-centric approach, which is aimed at mitigating these evolving threats in a very rapidly changing landscape, enabling zero trust capabilities and outcomes. At Cisco, we talk about a zero trust architecture model that is comprised of 3 pillars and is much easier to understand and implement compared to some of the other models I have shown that have 5 or 7 pillars. The 3 pillars have, though, the same functionality and capabilities as the more complex models. The workforce pillar covers key capabilities and functions related to strong user and device authentication and authorization, privilege access, as well as user and device posture and compliance. The workplace pillar covers areas of granular software-defined access to your network and infrastructure, and how to go about segmenting your environment. The workload pillar covers capabilities related to micro-segmentation, for instance, software-defined access in your data center applications. And the 3 pillars then feed and support the architecture capabilities. The architecture provides consolidated visibility, analytics, automation, and orchestration capabilities, including monitoring, SIEM, incident response, etc. As stated before, organizations will have already some of these capabilities and would want to understand where they are in terms of maturity and what other capabilities they have to invest in order to move to a zero trust architecture. We offer a high-level view of maturity levels and phases for our customers that can be used as a way to measure and monitor their progress towards zero trust. A high-level look looks as follows. On the left-hand side, you will see the initial capabilities that deal with establishing trust levels by strongly authenticating users and validating their devices, discovering and classifying devices in your network, understanding their activity, and communication flows. Next, you move to enforcing more granular software-based access into your networks and applications, which should be based on the device posture and the user context. Last, moving to an automated adaptive policy where you are able to enforce policies consistently end-to-end, whether it's on the network or the application. You continuously monitor, inspect, and analyze behavior to identify and detect threats and respond to them. I will go through and show a bit more detailed view of maturity phases for 2 of the pillars. Let's start off with the workforce pillar, covering users and their devices. Please keep in mind that the phases are not necessarily linear one by another, and that many organizations have achieved progress in each of the phases. In the first maturity phase for workforce, you look at enabling strong authentication for all users who are attempting to access a work application, irrespective of where they are, which network they are logging from. This phase will mitigate many threats that use compromised credentials and passwords to launch attacks in your environment. In the second phase, you gain visibility into users, devices, and their activity, creating and keeping up-to-date inventory of all users and devices accessing your applications, as well as understanding their access activity and related risks. Next, in the phase 3, you enable capabilities to inspect devices in real time at the time of access to determine posture and trust levels. Moving into phase 4, you are then able to construct and enforce dynamic, adaptive, risk-based policies. You can group applications, users, and devices by risk and trust levels when applying these policies. As an example, you can allow users who are on a corporate issued device that is up to date and managed after the user has authenticated using multi-factor authentication to access your sales application. However, you will not allow that same user access if they use their own personal device. Lastly, in the fifth phase, you have capabilities to monitor the environment for anomalies against defined policies or set baseline using automation in response to mitigate and contain threats. Your users will have a consistent experience whether they are working in the office or working remotely. Moving on to our next second example of a zero trust maturity model, this time for workplace or the networks and environments where the users work and connect from. In the first maturity phase, you establish workplace trust by your ability to discover, authenticate, classify systems, users, and devices, including IoT in your workplace network. Classify them, determine their function and role in your network. Next, you gain visibility into the communication flows related to the workplace environment between these users, devices, and systems and your applications. In phase 3, you are able to control access to the workplace network by configuring and enforcing authentication and authorization policies for in-scope users and devices and systems, not allowing users who are unauthenticated or the ones that do not meet baseline security requirements to connect. Then in phase 4, you enforce more granular software-based access via segmentation or micro-segmentation policies and only allow those communication flows that are required for your business operations. In the last maturity phase, you are able to monitor and inspect as well as efficiently amend the scope and policies to cater to changes in your organization or the environment. Adopting zero trust architecture will help organizations improve their overall security maturity, moving from static prevention with policies that are enforced or applied only at the perimeter or inside the data center, to understanding how these users and devices access data and applications, and your ability to enforce dynamic context-based policies end-to-end, continuously detecting or looking after identifying anomalies and threats and verifying trust levels. In our view, a high-level picture of how organizations can effectively go about their zero trust journey is the following. First, try and understand where you are in terms of your organization's zero trust capabilities. For example, utilize some of the maturity models we have just shared or went through. Look at where the organization wants to be in a given period of time in future, let's say in 3 years. Align this to your business strategies and environment you are operating in. Consider more than just technology. Include aspects that are related to your people and organization structure, processes, and how everything is integrated and working together. Produce an actionable roadmap, identifying key initiatives and relevant milestones. Then continue to execute the roadmap as a set of work packages and initiatives, moving through the maturity phases towards your goal of future state. This may mean improved capabilities around things like visibility, enforcing more granular and context-based policies, keeping in mind also the people, processes, and the organizational effects and dependencies that you need to address. Improve your security operations capabilities with improved integration and automation and orchestration. Monitor your progress using maturity levels as well as accomplishment of key milestones. After each milestone is complete, continue by improving continuously your capabilities, work on staff skills and their abilities to identify and respond to incidents and evolving threats. The Cisco Security Services team can help customers in their journey through a number of services, starting with putting together a zero trust roadmap, a strategy, through advisory and professional services aimed at supporting execution of that roadmap, with example of segmentation services. And lastly, we have services that help you continuously improve and manage security incidents. With that, I would like to summarize and offer the following as some of the key takeaway points from this session. Zero Trust is an evolutionary framework. It's not a revolution. Zero Trust is not only technology, it's a design and architecture approach. It should be there to augment your existing cybersecurity practices and tools rather than ripping out and replacing them. The existing threat protection approach remains a very integral component of Zero Trust. Zero Trust is a mature strategy that will provide returns if approached in a programmatic way and with investments that are aligned to your business needs. The Cisco team will be, and with the partners, will be able to help you embark on and accelerate your Zero Trust journey. I hope you have found this session useful. For more insights around Cisco's comprehensive approach to Zero Trust, please visit our Zero Trust portal. Thank you and have a great remaining of the conference.